Hello, everyone. On this podcast, I'm going to continue my God series. Talking about God, and I think I've said it this before on the earlier podcast, but I've just touched on it briefly on the other earlier. But what I'm trying to say on this podcast is that the point that God says that most people will not go to heaven. You may think it's a lie, but it's actually the truth. Do you know why most people won't go to heaven, go to the kingdom of God? Is because most people actually do not believe in God. They tell you to do, because most people grew up in in a religious household, Because of that, they're peer pressured into pretending they care about God. They're peer pressured into being pastors. They're peer pressured into being, priests. It's all peer pressure. People who truly believe in God, you can tell. People who are wise can easily tell someone who truly believes in God and someone who doesn't. It is so easily, it's so easy to tell the way they behave, the way they dress, the way they act, the words they speak, how they act, whether they're kind or whether they're cruel. Haven't you met someone who says, oh, I've met so many Christians myself, growing up, who especially in school, who always talk about I believe in God, I'm a Christian, yet they do some of the most cruelest things in the world. They're just abusive in general. Just that's the reason why some people become atheists, because they're like, I don't see any God in the world, right? And then the Christians, the religious people, are very mean. They call themselves Christian this, Christian that. I even saw in the news recently where uh, a woman, a woman who just had a baby, right? She was asking for a place to stay for the night, and she went to a church, and the church turned her down. They threatened to kick her out. They even threatened her with violence. And this is a church. This is a church we're talking about, man. And they're this cruel to to a random stranger who's done nothing wrong to them, just for a place to stay for the night. That is very hard for for some churches to do. You know, and these are Christians. These are the churches that call themselves Christian churches. This is the mindset of most people. Most people pretend to believe in God because they don't really believe there's God to begin with. So they think that because there's no God in this world, as long as I pretend to believe in God, no one will bully me for it. They don't want to be bullied or mocked or insulted by the Christians around them because of the fear of being bullied, the fear of not being part of a group. They will pretend to be Christians just to fit in. You know, they'll pretend to be religious just to fit in, and those people can be easily seen from the rest because it is the majority. The way they behave, how they act. There's the kindness in them isn't you can't really find any kindness in them. They'll talk about how kind they are. They'll even when they help others, you notice, if you notice, someone who's kind and someone who's pretending to be kind can be easily seen through so quickly. Someone who's kind will help others without telling anybody else. For example, if you see a homeless person down the road, right? If you see a homeless person starving to death down the road, someone who's kind will help that homeless person, give him food, take him to a shelter. If they can't take care of the homeless person themselves, they'll give him food. Find some sort of shelter for him, and then move on with their lives without telling a single soul, without letting a single person know what they've done. They would do this, you know, automatically without the slightest care in the world. But that's the mindset of a kind person. When a kind person does a good thing, nobody knows it. The only person that knows it is God. When a wicked person does a good thing, they must let everybody know that they're doing a good thing. It's a publicity stunt. Everything they do is a publicity stunt. They never do it out of kindness itself. They do it just to let everybody know how kind they are. If you see people who only, if every time they give to you, they must let everybody know they're kind to you. If they see a homeless person, they give to them. They must take a video or a picture with it, share with their friends that they helped that person. Do you really think that person is actually a kind person? Think about it. If the only time you want to help someone is when you want to show it off to everyone around you, are you really a kind person? Are you helping people out of kindness? Or are you just doing it out of just to show off? That's the difference between a truly kind person and someone who's not kind. Someone who's not kind, who's never been kind their entire life, will only help you when there's others around. If you ever find these type of people by themselves and they get no social benefits, if they get no social benefits, no clouts from helping you, they will not help you one bit. If there's no benefit, there's no physical or monetary benefit or social benefit from helping you, people who people who aren't kind will never help you one single bit. These are those people that they'll bring you to their home. If you're a homeless person, right? When people around you are around, they'll act like the kindest person in the world. But the moment everyone leaves, the moment no one's paying attention to them, that's when they turn to be the cruelest people you've ever met in your entire life. They'll turn from someone who pretends to like you, who does this for you and does that for you, but the moment everyone starts paying attention to them, they switch immediately and they try to take everything they've given to you back and more. These are the people you need to be afraid of. These are the average Christians in this world. They're only kind, they're only Christians, they're only religious because there are other people around them. If nobody's paying attention to them, when no one's around, their true behavior comes out. These are the ones that you spend time with them. When you're far away from them, right? When you see them from afar, they look like the perfect Christians. And then when you start to live with them, you start to see the way they behave. That's when you start realizing, oh, I came to the wrong house. I thought I was going to a Christian house, but everything you guys do is so cruel. Everything you guys do is mean, obnoxious, and cruel. Not a single ounce of Christianity is here. Not a single ounce of kindness, is here. So why do you guys always pretend to be the kindest people there are? You guys, you study the Bible all the time, but it seems like you're not reading anything. And the reason why is because they're only doing it to show off. Have you heard of people who are short tend to overcompensate to pretend to be people who are short tend to overcompensate by wearing high heels and platformers to appear taller than they are. People who are ugly, right, wear makeup and other things to appear more beautiful than they are. People who are wicked tend to pretend to be kinder, than everybody else, just to offset the fact that they know deep within them that they're wicked. You understand? People who are kind do not pretend to be kind. They just do kind things all the time. People who are wicked are the ones that you always have to hear. Every time they do something kind, you must always hear it. They must let everybody know how kind they are. If you ever meet someone who always has to let everybody know how kind he or she is, run away. These are not kind people. Kind people do not pretend to be kind. Kind people do not show off their kindness. Kind people do kind things all the time. It's no longer, when you're kind, right? You do kind things so much that being kind is no longer something you show off. Only wicked people think that, oh, I finally did something kind. I need to let everybody know, even me, I can be a kind person. I did something kind. Everybody has to know that I just did. I've never done a kind thing in my entire life. I finally did something kind. So I gotta let everybody know that I did something, that is way out of my, my normal way of behavior. This is the mindset. This is why they're always showing off their kindness. They're always showing off their kindness because they're not kind people. It's not in their mind. They don't even know that there are people who are always doing these things that they're doing, and they never let anybody know. It doesn't cross their mind that there are people who do this on a daily basis and nobody knows of it. They help homeless people on a daily basis. They help people on a daily basis. They're kind to others on a daily basis. They do not mock others on a daily basis. That's the difference between, most Christians and, you know, and everybody else, Most Christians and the true Christians. Most Christians, every time they do something kind, they must let everybody know. Do you know why? Because they're not really kind people. Every time they read the Bible, they can only read the Bible when people are around. When people are not around, they abandon that Bible in a heartbeat. They will abandon it in a heartbeat. And this is why Jesus Christ said, most people will not go to the kingdom of heaven, because most people do not believe in God to begin with. So, although they tell you that, I'm a Christian, they can open their mouth and tell you they're Christian with confidence, right? Because they believe there's no one there to watch them. They can lie all day, and the only person they think is watching them is themselves. This is why they can confidently come out and lie to you all day and night how great of a Christian they are, how much they love God. They worship God all day. They're the best Christians out there. They do everything right, but they only do everything right when people are watching them. When no one's watching them, they devolve into the cruelest person you've ever met in your entire life. And that's what you need to watch out for, is that there's so many fake Christians out there that, you'd be surprised the things they do when no one's watching them. When no one's watching them, how do you behave? And this is exactly why, you have to be careful. This is why God hides himself, to weed out, those who only who will only be Christian, who will only be kind to others. God made himself hidden. That way you can see who's truly a Christian or not. If you're only a Christian because God exists, if you're only kind to others because God exists, you're not kind at all. You're not a kind person. If you only be kind when your parents are around you, are you really a kind person? And when the moment your parents leave, you start behaving like a mad lunatic? Will you only be kind to others when your parents are around? Are you that child that's always only kind to people when their family members are around to watch them? That way they don't get in trouble. But the moment their parents or family members are, have gone somewhere, they start behaving, in the most violent and cruel ways. Is that you? Guess what? That's exactly why God, doesn't show himself, to see to see you, to see who you really are. Are you really someone, if God doesn't exist, we immediately start, treating everyone badly? Is that you? Are you the type that start manipulating people, pretending to be a Christian when you're not? Is that you? Would you stop behaving like a kind person the moment, God doesn't exist? The moment you believe God doesn't exist, because, hey, if God doesn't exist, why am I kind to others? Why shouldn't I just start, treating people badly? If you have that mindset, there's a reason why you never see God anywhere. Because God would never show himself to a violent, evil being. God will never be around evil people. If you go to church not because you want to serve God, if you go to church because you want to you think church is a place where you can find a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you're not going to church for the right reasons. If church is a dating is a dating app to you, you only go to church to date, to look for people to date. Guess what? Because of that mindset, God would never bring anyone who is kind to your doorstep. You always have the same pretentious fake people that pretend to be Christian in front of others, but are actually violent, cruel people behind the scenes. These are the only people you ever find, because you're not going to church for God. You're going to church to look for someone to date. You're going to church because church to you is a dating app. It is where you can find someone to date. And if you go to church for that very reason, you wonder why all your relationships end badly. If you keep wondering why all your relationships end badly, stop going to church for the wrong reasons. And this is usually the problem with most Christians. And this is why God hides himself. Because, it's so easy to pretend to be a Christian when God's around, It's so easy to try to manipulate God, but let me tell you, you can't manipulate God. You either believe God exists, or you're either a kind person or you're not. If you behave like a mad lunatic when because you know that you believe that God doesn't exist, it's on you. Wherever you go after you die, it's on you. Don't blame anybody else. Blame yourself. You know, if and which is most Christians. Most religious people they're only going through the motions. When a new fad comes, they adapt that fad. If everybody smoking, they smoke. If everybody's drinking, they drink. If everybody's a Christian, they're Christians. If everybody around them is a Muslim, they're Muslims. If everybody's kind to others, they pretend to be kind to others as well. If everybody's mean to others, they're mean to others. If everybody's killing people, they're killing people as well. They don't even think about who they're killing or why they're killing them. They just kill people. This is the majority of people. They're easily manipulated by the news media. They're easily manipulated by celebrities. They're easily manipulated by the world around them. They don't really think before they act. They just follow what everyone else around them is doing. If that's you, there's a reason why most people will not go to the kingdom of heaven, because most people just follow what everyone else around them is doing. If you're that type of person who can't think for himself, who can't realize that being kind to others it's necessary, it's mandatory. If you're someone who can't be kind to others unless God is forcing you to, you're not a kind person. If you're only kind to others because you want to go to heaven, you're not a kind person. You can't manipulate God into heaven. God knows who you truly are. You can't manipulate the system. You can't pretend to be a kind person only because you want to go to heaven. If you're only kind to others because you want to go to heaven, you're fake. God can see right through you. If you're only kind to others because you want to go to heaven, you're fake. You have to be kind to others because you're kind to others. Do not stop seeking benefits for being kind to others. If you can't be good to people just for goodness sake, you're not going anywhere. You're a manipulative person. You're trying to manipulate God. You're trying to deceive God that you're a kind person when you're not. You're only doing it for benefits. You're only doing it until you go to heaven. Then once you reach heaven, if you've already accomplished your goal, you can go back to being the person you were you truly are. If you're only kind to others until you get to heaven, you're not a kind person. You're just pretending to be. If you're only kind to others because you're afraid of God, or you're afraid of going to hell, you're not a kind person. You're just pretending to be. Kind people do kind things without desiring any benefits whatsoever. That's a truly kind person. Someone who will be kind to you, whether you give them money or whether people around them or not, whether they get any social benefits from it, I guess that's the point. People who are kind to others will be kind to others regardless, and because they don't show off their kindness, right? They receive no physical benefits from it. But because they receive no physical benefits from it, they receive benefits from God Himself. You understand? People who are kind to others just for goodness sake. They're kind because they want to be kind, not because they get any benefits from anyone whatsoever. These are the ones they can help the whole world. You'll never know. You'll never know of it. They could be donating their entire life to so many homeless shelters, so many charities, and you'll never hear a single dime of it online or on the news. These people exist. The fake ones are the ones you always have to hear them say, "Oh, I helped someone. I helped someone. I helped this. I helped that." These ones receive physical benefits here on earth. Many people, revere those who show off their kindness, right? But because they get physical benefits here on earth, they will not receive a single ounce of benefit from God. If you're only kind to others to receive physical benefits from earth, you're not kind at all. If you're only kind to others just to receive benefits from God, well, guess what? This is why God hid Himself. As long as you don't think God exists, what are you doing? Why are you helping others? God doesn't exist. Why are you helping others when God doesn't exist? Stop. Stop pretending to help others. You're either a kind person or you're not. If you can't behave like a kind person when there's no benefit, when there's no reason to, when there's no reason to be kind to others and you're still kind, that's true kindness. If there's no benefit for you to be kind to others and you're still kind, that's real kindness. If you're only kind to others to get something, that's a transaction. You're trying to create a transaction with God. I'll bring a little, I'll be kind to others, you give me money. I'll be kind to others, you take me to heaven. Okay, God? It's a quid pro quo, quid pro quo transaction, this for that. You're trying to barter with God. It's not gonna work out for you. If you're only pretending to be Christian because you want to go to heaven, God, I'll pretend to be a Christian. I'll be a Christian right now. You take me to heaven, okay? Deal, deal. God is not gonna listen to you. If that's your mindset, that I'll be a Christian right now, that way you can take me to heaven. If you don't take me to heaven, I'll never be a Christian in my entire life. You don't come down. If you don't show me who you are, I'll never be a Christian. Guess what? God will not show you who He is. If you have the mindset of trying to manipulate God to do what you want, God will not show you who He is. If you have the mindset of trying to, get some sort of benefit from God, God will not show you who He is. If you're not kind to others just for kindness sake, God will not show you who He is. If you're not believing God just because He's God, you're not getting any benefit from it. This is it. God doesn't care whether you believe in Him or not, man. Most people will not go to heaven. That means God is not begging for the whole world to go to heaven, man. Think about it. Read your Bible. God is not begging for the whole world to go to heaven. God is not thinking anxiously that, oh no, most people won't go to heaven. I need to make sure that everybody gets to heaven. This is in the mindset of God. God only wants the cream of the crop, the kindest people on earth to go to heaven. The most righteous people on earth to go to heaven. Not you. Not just, God isn't that desperate for people. He's not, heaven isn't so empty that God feels like, oh, there's not enough people in heaven, man. I need to bring as many people as possible. There's not enough people. I'm bored. I'm lonely. I need more people around me. This isn't God. This is the mindset of God. God does not have the mindset of, oh, I'm lonely. I need to bring more people to God. I need to make sure everybody knows that I exist. That way everybody can become Christians and everybody can worship me. That's not God's mindset. God does not care whether you believe He exists or not. God is only here to, you're only here to be tested. If you can't be a kind person when no one's around, you're not a kind person. If you can't be a kind person, a true, genuine kind person, you're not going anywhere where kind people are. Heaven is where kind people are. If you're not a kind person, you're not going there. Period. If you're only a kind person because you want to go to heaven, you're not going there either. Period. It's that mindset. You have to have the mindset of, I don't need any benefits being kind. I don't need any benefits, to worship God. I don't need any benefits to be a good Christian. Just being a good Christian is enough. You have to have the mindset that just being a good Christian is enough. Just being a good person is enough. I don't need any more benefits from that. Other than that, that's the only way you can go anywhere except, hell. If you're always seeking benefit, if you're that manipulative person, that's always seeking benefits for everything they do. I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that, I will not be a kind person unless, at least I get some sort of fame from it. I want everyone to see that I'm a good person. My pastor, everybody has to know that I'm a good person, So I'll do kind things while people are around, that way people know that I'm a kind person, Because I know behind the scenes I've been doing a lot of wicked things. So fearing that people will think I'm a wicked person, I start doing kind things in front of others, hoping they don't spot the truth, behind the scenes, that behind the scenes I'm not that kind of a person. Behind the scenes I regret helping people every single day because I didn't receive that much benefit from it. The last time I helped a homeless person and uploaded it online to let everybody know that I helped a homeless person, I only received 5 likes. Only 5 likes on Instagram. That was all I received, man. My pastor didn't even say thank you for it. I helped a homeless person, no one would say thank you for it. That is unfair, Why should I be helping people now when no one says thank you for it, Even the homeless person, he didn't even tell his friends that I helped him. How can the homeless person be so ungrateful? He couldn't even tell his friends that I helped him. I didn't even look, he couldn't even make me look good in front of his friends, man. I want a girlfriend, man. I want a girlfriend that that reveres me for being a kind person. And you can even tell anyone, not even the girls around. That way they see me as a kind person, man. This is so unfair. I did all that work, helped him, and yet I get no benefits from it. All I had was 5 likes on my Instagram page. That is so unfair. If that's your mindset, you're not going anywhere. If that's your mindset, you only help people to gain benefits, you're not going anywhere. But that's it for today's episode. And I'm not really gonna say much. I'm not really that much of a. I'm not a Christian, person to begin with. Not that I'm not Christian. I'm just not. I'm not that religious of a person to begin with. But I just thought I'd share my thoughts. So don't expect me to debate anybody. If you're someone who likes to debate, don't expect me to be a debater. I don't debate people. I don't like talking too much to begin with. I don't like arguing. I don't like yelling. This isn't me. I'm not someone who does these things. I'm a very quiet person. The moment yelling and screaming starts, I look for somewhere else to go, man. This is in my territory. I don't like violence. I don't like mock. I don't like mocking others. I don't like being mocked. So if that's you, if you want to debate, you want to yell, you want to argue, you want to scream, go somewhere else. I will block you or I will ignore you. I'll ignore your message. That's me. That's if I'm kind. If I don't want to bother you, I just ignore your message. Just let it go. You know. As long as you don't think I've seen it, you won't. You won't bother me. But if I feel like you're just a very boring person who's just here to cause trouble, I'll just block you and move on with my life. But that's rare. I rarely ever block people. I just pretend I didn't see them. Just move on with my life. There's no need to argue with anyone. There's no need to fight with anyone. Just move on with your life, and they'll move on because they think I didn't see. I didn't see the message. I didn't see the comment. And sometimes they even delete it afterwards when they realize, oops, this is not the type of person this isn't the person who starts to yell and scream at you the moment you cuss them out. This is someone who just ignores you. So there's, I gain no benefit from that either. So don't expect me to talk about anything else. This is just my podcast where I talk about, everything on my mind, anything on my mind. So don't expect me to ever go to the church and start preaching. I'm not that type of person. I do what I can. I do what I want. That's who I am. That's who I've always been. I'll see you guys later. Bye.